Car of the year Japan, pretty slick styling, and the Subaru you know and love. Don't expect a WRX or STI, but rather expect the 2017 Impreza, ladies, gentlemen, and others. What is this? As tested here, we have the top of the range Impreza, the 2-litre SCVT. With the newer FB series 2-litre engine, CVT gearbox, leather interior, mad infotainment system, torque vectoring, all-wheel drive, basically everything Subaru could shove into the crockpot just in time for supper. And this little lovely crockpot here is all part of the all-new Subaru global platform, of which the XV is also part of. Another thing to note that this car is separate from the WRX and STI. It's not like the old days when the Impreza marquee was associated with those sport versions. This is its own car. What do I think? The 2017 Impreza reminds me of a dude who can hold his own nicely in gym, despite some heat from some guys who like hogging the weights a little too much with a noticeable German and Korean accent. The new Impreza is no slouch. It's got decent pep to get up and going smoothly and doesn't feel bogged down within its rev range. The FB engine is pretty much doing justice here. Don't expect the Impreza to be a WRX or STI in terms of performance, but that's not the intention here. Despite it being a more sensible car compared to its rambunctious siblings, but yeah, the WRX and STI are kind of more sensible, just really fast kind of sensible. It's quite fun, yet composed to throw around, and has a pleasant note when singing along to its red line. Even though that's not the purpose, they did keep that in mind. Not once did this car flinch, and it's mad comfortable too. I didn't really test out the infotainment system, but from what I did check out, it's quite loaded, I must say. And speaking of load, the boot is biggish, although it doesn't look like it's the 345 litres stated. It is a vortex, I tell you. It munches up suitcases nicely. What I love about this car is that it still feels as though a Subaru should. It's planted and it has its own character while all being the more sensible compared to the WRX STI. Thanks to the engine additions like direct injection and other refinements, it drinks a decent amount of fuel, hovering around 6.6 litres per 100 k's as claimed. I think it will make a really good road tripper as well. I mean, if you'd use the all-wheel drive in the Bundus, then I don't think this should be a problem at all. Not to mention, the new Impreza is definitely a looker in my eyes. I mean, the angles and lines make sense, plus the little accents in the interior I find to be quite tasteful. It's a really pretty looking car. Honesty section! Look, as much as I'm a Subaru fan, I gotta keep it real and say this. As tested, this car is going for 400,000 Rand. And that, I think, for what it's offering, is pretty pricey. Don't get me wrong, it drives well, but I honestly think this car, without the eyesight installed, it should be more around the 350k mark when competing with the likes of the Corolla, Jetta, Cerato, and Elantra. The Jetta fully expect being the priciest of the bunch from what I've seen. And let's not get into the A3 sedan. No, that is pricey. Plus, the range for me isn't all that exciting. It's the same engine, the same power, same CVT, nothing to mix it up except for a few differences here and there like sat-nav and whatnot. To compare the Impreza to a competitor, I like how Hyundai is keeping its Elantra range simple, broadened, yet quite nice with reasonable pricing. Take the Elantra Sport for example, which is priced the same as the Impreza I tested, but when comparing them on paper, the winning factors for me with the Impreza are the all-wheel drive, boxer engine, etc. in decent spec, whereas the Elantra is offering more fun on its table with bang for buck. Yes, the Subaru is more dynamic in drive and everything else, but for what it's being offered for in South Africa, it is a hefty price to say, I do have to say. Even if the Elantra Sport is not everyone's cup of tea, there is different trim levels that are a reasonable price and spec, and that was considered, and I do like what the Elantra range is offering. And I really think honestly Subaru can do the same with the Impreza because they do have the capability to do such, and in my honest opinion it doesn't require a lot of maths and logistics. Subaru has the things in their arsenal, or let's say the parts bin, to actually make a pretty nice Impreza indeed. I mean, don't get me wrong, the current Impreza that I drove is a really nice car, it's a really nice car indeed, but let's just kind of mix it up a little. I mean, let's put it like this. Have a base 2-litre model that's pretty bare bones, no eyesight, torque vectoring and all that jazz, just a bare bones 2-litre all-wheel drive. Maybe a 1.6 if you must, but let's just hover that around the 290k mark. Then you have the 2-litre S at the 340k mark without eyesight installed, and then comes the creme de la creme Impreza range. Well, range stopper, let me say, which I'm pretty much proposing, and yeah, let me just explain it for a second. I mean, Subaru, do this. Take the 1.6 litre turbo from the Levorg, put small STI handling bits and cosmetics, nothing too complicated, nothing too serious, but just, to sweeten up the ride a bit, but then also at the same time kind of keep the cost down. Offer a 6-speed manual, CVT, or even a dual clutch transmission, and at a price that is, well, at the 400k mark. That, I think, is when the Impreza range will make more sense in terms of cost and what it's offering, and it's going to offer something more exciting in terms of its range. I mean, there needs to be a bit more variation when it's I mean, within its range. My English today, my word. The sport version I'm proposing not only will make an exciting addition to the range, but will bring about healthy competition, and people in South Africa will understand how fun an Impreza can be. Call it the Impreza Sport even, as a baby step to the WRX and then the creme de la creme STI. You know, you gotta ease people in. And another thing why I complain about the price point is that in order to justify it, people need to drive the car. The Impreza drives exceptionally well, but knowing how South Africans are, it's quite a hard sale because the majority of people fear trying different brands because, let's be honest, we work on a lot of what people have actually tried and trusted, and also hearsay and word of mouth. And, you know, you gotta put people behind the wheel, and then people will understand what the car is. And you have to sway them in that sense, but I feel Subaru is not doing enough of that with their cars. And like I said, it's more hearsay and word of mouth instead of actual wheel time, with the exception of the family vehicles to some extent, because, you know, family word of mouth spreads easily and is tried and trusted. Granted, the launch of the Impreza and the XV did include a test drive day, which was awesome, although it saddens me that they're not featuring in the South African Festival of Motoring, which is an event that is a big deal. I mean, this event compared with the recent launch would have been a good proving ground for the car, along with other models. I mean, as many say with Subarus, once you drive one, you'll understand. This is paramount. Feature more at these events. I just really wish they could have been there at Festival of Motoring this year, but you know what? I looked into the logistics of all that, and it kind of makes sense why they're not in this particular instance. But you know, a man can wish. A man can wish, let me tell you that much. The verdict. The 2017 Impreza is as Subaru as can be and drives really well. It's just I think Subaru can do a bit more in terms of its range variations and bringing excitement onto the table. Subaru is good at that. More people need to drive this car in order to justify the price point, and I really think that SA Festival of Motoring would have been the perfect proving ground. Should you give this car a whack or let it drive away? I suggest you give it a whack, man. Just make sure you got the pockets for it. And of course, a big thank you to Subaru Johannesburg for letting me try out the car and all that jazz. And yes, I was quite hard on it in the honesty section, but hey, it is quite a good car indeed, and I just had to pass my thanks over. Thank you very much, guys. Really do appreciate it.